The information security industry is at a key inflection point. Multiple simultaneous trends are occurring that place a tremendous amount of stress on existing security infrastructure. What are these trends impacting the security infrastructure? How must information security evolve to keep the bad guys from gaining the upper hand? And why is context awareness so critical to next-generation information security? We'll explore those questions and more with leading experts from Gartner and StoneSoft. And more importantly, they'll offer advice on what type of information security provider you should be looking for to suit your organization's needs.
We believe the information security industry is at a key inflection point. Multiple simultaneous trends are occurring that are placing tremendous stress on existing static security infrastructure. First, we have the shift to externalize and open up our business processes with collaboration systems like SharePoint, but we're tearing down the traditional walls of our organization and we're opening up our systems to outsiders, essentially. I have one pharmaceutical company in Europe that I'm working with that now has more external users coming into their systems than they have internal users. Also, there's a shift to mobilization of our workforce, anywhere, anytime access to our systems. And oh, by the way, they want it from their device, which is this trend called consumerization. Their iPhone, their iPad, their Android device, their Windows Phone device, essentially any device except the one that IT gave them. That also puts challenges on existing security information infrastructure. Within the data center, we're virtualizing. So we're decoupling workloads from the hardware underneath for initially cost savings. That's fantastic. However, that decoupling breaks security policies that are tied to physical attributes, like a server, like an IP address, like a MAC address. Security policies tied to physical attributes break as these workloads are decoupled and they start to move around from server to server, potentially from data center to data center. And if you play this out, why not take that workload and put it up in the cloud? And that's exactly what's happening with another key trend, which is the shift to cloud-based computing. Whether it's infrastructure as a service, so I move a workload, say, from my data center up into the cloud, or software as a service from providers like Salesforce.com or Microsoft with Office 365. All of these involve a loss of control. Whether I lose control of the network and the physical server with infrastructure as a service, or whether I also lose control of the application and the operating system itself when you consume software as a service, IT is losing control. At the same time, the bad guys are not sitting still. The two other shifts that I wanted to talk about are the industrialization and the nationalization of hackers. Industrialization meaning they're not just going after mass targeted attacks. They're going after you. They're going after your intellectual property, your valuable data. They're going after your secrets. Nationalization means, and oh, by the way, they're funded at the nation-state level. In many cases, with these advanced persistent threats, they're funded at a nation-state level, which means a level of advanced complexity that our traditional systems are not used to dealing with. So we had attacks on Google in 2010, but more recently in 2011, attacks on RSA, attacks on Lockheed Martin, attacks on the International Monetary Fund, all funded at the nation-state level using advanced techniques to compromise our systems. So these trends that we talked about, both shifts in business requirements and in the threat environment, are placing tremendous pressure on existing static security infrastructure. And that static infrastructure must change and it must adapt. Based on all these trends we talked about, you might think the bad guys now have the upper hand. We're dealing with all the business changes. We're dealing with the bad guys and the industrialization and the nationalization of hackers. This truly is an arms race, though. And if we stood still, yes, the bad guys would get the upper hand. The good news about the information security industry is that it's a highly vibrant and highly dynamic industry. At Gartner, we track technologies in the information security industry through the use of a construct that we call a hype cycle. A hype cycle moves from left to right in time, and what you see are new technologies, new innovations, new approaches to help counter the advanced threats that we're facing. And over time, these technologies, they get overhyped, sure, but over time, they take a very important and critical role inside of our information security infrastructure. So as you look at these Gartner hype cycles, and we publish at least 5 in the information security space, but as you look at these hype cycles, you'll see there are always new approaches and new innovations coming in on the left side. There's never been a shortage of innovative vendors, smaller vendors, point solutions that come in and address these very difficult security issues. And then over time, they become more mainstream and adopted by the broader population. But this trend, you could call it an arms race, has been going on. What we cannot do is stand still. Then the bad guys will get the upper hand. And that's why this information security industry is so exciting. Information security must evolve to support the changing demands of the business as well as the changing threat environment. One of the most significant changes that has to take place is a shift to thinking about information security not as a set of siloed products that are embodied in hardware. What we need to think about information security as is a set of software-based security controls that, yes, you can put them in hardware if you need to, or you can take that same software and embody it inside of a virtual appliance, inside of a virtual machine, and put it inside of your virtualized data center so the security controls are embedded within the fabric itself. Or, if you need, you could choose to have that security policy enforced up in the cloud. And ideally, the environment you live in, you'll be able to have a hybrid environment across physical machines and virtual machines and cloud-based resources. What we need is the ability for security policy to be enforced no matter where the user accesses the information from and no matter where the workload itself resides. Physical, maybe. Virtual, maybe. Cloud, maybe. The point is you choose, not the vendor. The vendor shouldn't say, look, we only sell physical, or we only sell virtual, or we only sell cloud-based services. You should be able to pick and choose. Sometimes you'll want a physical embodiment of a security control, like a firewall or an IPS system. For example, at the edge of your data center, where you need multiple tens of gigabits of inspection speed. Inside of your virtualized data center, sure, software-based security controls placed closer to the workload they protect, that makes great sense. For mobile users, sometimes cloud-based approaches make the most sense. The idea is you choose, you pick and choose where the security control and its enforcement makes the most sense. The other shift that's very important is a move to provide more context-aware intelligence to security administrators. Instead of drowning in a sea of data and events, we need to correlate the events, provide not only information, but further distill that information with the addition of context into intelligence. And intelligence means actionable insight. Where do I need to focus my efforts today? What systems represent the most risk? Where are the bad guys attacking? Which systems haven't been patched? Which pathways represent conduits where firewall ports may be open that people could get to these systems? What I want is actionable insight, and that's what Gartner research talks about in terms of context-aware intelligence. Context awareness is a key requirement for next-generation security infrastructure. The shift to mobilization of our workforce from consumer devices, the virtualization of our data center, the shift to cloud computing, there is a common thread among all of these trends, and that is an increasing loss of control by IT. How do we compensate for that loss of control? In the past, historically, control, if I owned an asset, if I owned a device, if I owned a network, I trusted it. And if I didn't own a device, and I didn't own the network, I didn't trust it. The world was very binary. Own it equals trust, don't own it, don't trust it. The world we're moving into is full of shades of gray. In between. I don't own and control all of the pieces. I cannot use control as a proxy for trust. So how do I start filling in those infinite shades of gray between absolute trust and absolute distrust? And that's where context comes in. Context is additional information to help me make better security decisions at the point in time a security decision is made. So, for example, to make this real, in a next generation firewall, I can add application awareness. That's a form of context. What application is the person accessing? I can add identity awareness. Who's the user? What role do they play? What's their nationality? I can use that as additional context. What content are they handling? Is it sensitive information? Is it valuable information? Should I treat that differently? Whether you call it application awareness or identity awareness or content awareness, these are all examples of the same underlying trend, which is the shift to context awareness. Now, it goes beyond just application and identity and content awareness. Context awareness also includes things like location, time of day, the type of device the user's coming from, whether it's managed or unmanaged, what's the reputation of the device, what's the reputation of the IP address that they're accessing, what's the reputation of the URL that they're accessing. All of this is real-time context that we can incorporate at the point in time an information security decision is made. That is the future of information security infrastructure, and we're seeing examples of that today with next-generation firewalls and next-generation IPS systems, next-generation endpoint protection platforms that include application awareness, identity awareness, and content awareness. Remember, these are all facets of the same underlying trend, and that trend is the shift to context-aware security. When you look at the changing business environment that we're moving into, as well as the changing threat environment, you need an information security provider that understands the enormous stress that existing infrastructure is under. They need to understand these shifts, such as virtualization of the data center and providing virtualized implementations of their security controls. They need to understand the shift to consumerization and cloud computing and how that represents a shift in control of IT and help you to compensate for that loss of control with increasing amounts of context within their security products. Their platforms themselves need to shift to software-based architectures that are capable of adapting to the changing threat environment in a more rapid fashion and give you the choice. Even though it's software, sure, if you need to embody that in a physical appliance for purposes of throughput, absolutely. You want it in a virtual appliance? Fine. Cloud? Fine. You need a vendor that gives you the choice to put the security control when and where it makes sense, but gives you a consistent way to manage policy. One console, one policy for a workload, no matter whether it's physical, no matter whether it's virtual, or potentially moves up into the cloud, one console, one vendor. What I don't want is silos of vendors and products, and you don't want it either because it increases complexity, it increases the chance that someone makes a mistake, and then the bad guys take advantage of that. So we need vendors that are adaptive and security infrastructure that is adaptive, not only to keep the bad guys out and their increasingly hostile and their increasingly advanced threats, but at the same time to enable us to embrace new types of business initiatives like consumer devices, like the shift to cloud computing. We cannot do that with today's static security infrastructure. It needs to be adaptive, very dynamic, shift from physical policies to logical policies, and support hybrid-based computing environments and incorporate context into real-time security decisions. This is a major shift in security infrastructure that will take place over the next several years. You need a vendor that understands these requirements and will take you on that journey.
StoneSoft takes a multi-layered approach with the suite of security solutions that we offer our customers today. We no longer believe that any one standalone solution will improve one's security in today's infrastructure. And what I mean by that, are standalone security solutions good? Of course they are. There's many very well-known and very, very solid standalone solutions out there today in the security space. But what I mean by that is the complexities that are involved in managing that environment. And if you also add on top of that the challenge that we're faced with today in terms of the economic climate and downturn, lack of resources, having to manage more with less, it becomes ever challenging and increasingly difficult to integrate and manage the diverse number of security applications within one's organization. Where StoneSoft comes into play with our multifaceted approach is that we span across firewall, IPS, IDS, secure authentication to the cloud, as well as remote access. So we cover several disciplines that are all easily and simply managed by a single management console. Not only to mention can we manage our own security devices, but we can also manage third-party devices as well. So providing the ability for you to have a deep view into your own network, to be able to integrate all of the data coming from all the different solutions and devices within your network into one single management console, makes it very easy and simple for network administrators to understand what is going on today. Again, you hear about compliance, you hear about regulatory, different laws that are being passed. All of that can be managed from our single management console. And that alone in itself is a very powerful statement. Because when you have a number of standalone solutions out there, the chances of human error grow exponentially. We no longer believe that you hear next generation firewall. Next generation firewalls are great, but that alone is not the solution to fix the challenges and the problems that we have today. It must be a multi-layered approach, and it must be easy to manage. It must be you must be capable of centrally managing those solutions as well. Because if you can minimize human error and automate, and you can have devices talking amongst themselves and sharing information, it means less human intervention, which also therefore means less mistakes and less breaches that can take place on a day-to-day basis. And I think the industry, the way the industry has been conditioned, is that the more press releases that come out around security breaches taking place, everyone thinks they have to buy more security and more standalone products. But it's more of how do I bring all those pieces together? And by purchasing or by moving forward with StoneSoft and leveraging StoneSoft's technology, you can bring all those components together and make and bring that into intelligence. You can bring all those components together and intelligently understand what is going on within your organization. And again, bringing visibility and control back into the hands of the administrator and back into the hands of the organization, and minimizing your overall cost dramatically. StoneSoft has actually been dealing with the next generation of threats for quite some time now. Our solutions have been homegrown. They have been software-based. We believe heavily that in order for one to have a next-generation solution, it must be software-based. In order for one to be able to protect their organization proactively rather than reactively. We also believe that it must be adaptive, and that's also very key today. When you look at the convergence of the mobile workforce, the consumerization of IT, and all the demands through social media that are being placed on our networks today, you have to have the ability to secure in the cloud. You have to have the ability for organizations that are moving to virtual environments You have to have the ability to be flexible enough to take your technology and also secure those environments as well as physical environments. So when I say platform, it's platform independent, platform neutral. StoneSoft has had that philosophy and mindset since day one. Because we are software based, we can run on any appliance, or any hardware, as well as our own appliance. And we also have virtual solutions we've been supporting for over 10 years. And recently, we also secure access to the cloud. Customers that have our technology love StoneSoft because they only have to learn once. They learn once, and they can deploy anywhere and everywhere. So our technology runs the same, whether it's in a physical world, a virtual world, or a cloud environment, without any lack of security features, without any lack of performance. It runs the same independently regardless of where it is. And that's also very key today. It's all integrated and, again, reducing the complexities and automating the challenges that one has in today's environment. Also, context and application aware. You have to be able to understand what's transversing over the network in detail and at a much deeper level. And StoneSoft has been providing context and application aware solutions in the network security space for many, many years. It just may have not been as well known or broadcast in the environment, but those customers that have our technology have been using it in that capacity for quite some time now. So I think if you look at the big picture, you bring software dynamic-based solution. StoneSoft brings software dynamic-based solutions that are adaptive, that can run on any platform, whether it be cloud, virtual, or physical. And our solutions are also context and application aware. I think those are some of the key areas. And not only to mention that, but also the ability then to bring it all together within our StoneSoft Management Console, which is kind of our glue that holds everything together, as well as third-party device management as well. The first thing I think of when someone asks me the question, what makes StoneSoft unique? And the first thing that comes to mind is we're small, we're agile, we're a dynamic organization that provides cutting-edge network security technology to very, very large global organizations. But in saying that, I have to think about our research and development organization and the phenomenal work that they do. They've recently discovered a way to harden our own devices, make our software applications and appliances more secure around advanced evasion techniques. And you hear the term advanced persistent threats, advanced evasion techniques. Our company, StoneSoft, is the leader in its space in protecting organizations from these kind of threats. Our team, a couple years ago, in the process of developing ways to make our box more secure and keep the bad guys out, actually developed an automated tool, and we believe we have over 40 man years of research and development invested in developing this tool. We believe we have a head start in a majority of our competitors in this space. So when you hear of organizations that have been breached and no one is able to explain exactly what happened, and the reason why many of these companies are being breached is, one is very well know is human error, but those that go unexplained, that people can't determine what happened. It all comes down to the evasion techniques that the bad guys are using to penetrate those networks undetected and to do what they want with those organizations. And we see every week, some organization proclaiming they're going to attack another organization and get access to their networks. And it's by these types of evasion techniques and persistent threats that they're able to access those networks. And we feel at StoneSoft we're years ahead of the competition in this space. And we have major organizations that have validated our findings. And we have more and more large enterprise customers requesting to better understand how we can help them secure their environment from such threats in the future. And so I think being a small player and getting the recognition from multi-billion-dollar companies and being asked to have a seat at the table. We're very proud of that. The 20 years of research and development and work that have gone into this organization, this company, and a lot of these recent threats that are taking place, we're very proud of the fact that although we are small, we believe that we can compete and exceed and excel against the best and the biggest and the largest organizations that are in our space, and do it very well. And those customers that have our technology, as I said before, they're fans. They're fans of StoneSoft technology. So it's amazing. I've never been in an environment that, usually I'm putting out a fire, helping a customer who's upset about the technology. That's something at StoneSoft you very rarely come across. If there's an issue, it's resolved almost immediately. So again, if I was to prioritize what's unique, it's our research and development organization, their skills, their ability to combat all the challenges that we currently have around anti-evasions and persistent threats. Our support organization and the phenomenal work that they do. When you make a phone call into StoneSoft, the person that picks up the phone, that's the person that solves your issues that you have at hand. And we have plenty of customers that love having that intimate relationship with our support organization and knowing that when they pick the phone call up, that they will have a person on the other line that is taking care of them in country, here in the U.S., our support organization is here in the U.S., and the person that picks the phone up, that's the person that's going to actually solve the issue at hand. And they're not being shipped off to another third-party organization. So again, our research development team, our support organization is second to none. And we are very proud of the technology that we're helping organizations today and how we're helping them simplify their business and secure their environments. When someone looks at StoneSoft and is doing their research, one of the first things that comes up is they might realize that we're a Finnish-based company out of Helsinki. And we're small. But I look at that as more of an advantage and a plus. We're a small, dynamic, cutting-edge technology company that develops world-class enterprise security solutions for very, very large global enterprise customers. When you speak to our existing customers today, you will realize they're not customers of StoneSoft, but they're actual fans. When you get them in a room and you get them talking, you can't get them to stop talking about how much they love our technology, how we're able to reduce their complexities, reduce their IT costs, their operational and their capital expenditures by well over 50%. And as I said, it's one big happy family. We do have a small footprint in the U.S. We're very well known in Europe, but we're making great inroads here in the U.S. Because when I meet with large organizations, a lot of the things that I hear today, budgets are being reduced, resources are being minimized, they have to manage more with less. So if you're in a situation that you're tired of the ever-increasing maintenance costs, you have a small staff that has to manage an ever-increasing environment, more security devices, and you're tired of being strong-armed by some of the industry leaders, then StoneSoft is definitely an alternative. Because we can take those resources, repurpose them for other important projects within your organization, provide you more layers of technology without minimizing security and performance, and help you in your overall goals and initiatives at the end of the day of driving shareholder value for your company.